tell as a commissioner of police, tell a politician, back off. You have no knowledge of the law. You have no knowledge of law enforcement. You cannot force my officers to do the wrong thing.
But that is somebody's son. That is somebody's child. That is part of a family. And I think that is the part that they are missing out.
Because E and F are apt to be used oppressively.
It's like because we don't see disabled people as sexual beings, which is ridiculous.
You mean they don't want to listen to your version of science? They have their own science. You have your science.
What we need to do is teach people to think and not what to think.
Today, it's too bad that everybody do what they want.
If I could forgive Bernard Ford, then I could forgive Bob Morris too. And today, on this day, I no more have anything in my heart for what he did.
The education system has to be very fluid and dynamic because we're living in very different and changing times.
Treating all your citizens equally, all your citizens fairly, recognizing each group, not discriminating against one or the other.
You are a technocrat. I mean, you can speak to whether or not it was appropriate or inappropriate for that to occur. Would you have done that as a permanent secretary?
Politicians get the information from wherever source that they can.
That's going to be the extent of your answer.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
There's a lot of noise around the data protection bill that, in my respectful view, is not warranted.
I was one of those making noise, and it's simply because I was concerned about that specific section 33.
Don't go there.
Are you going to be offering yourself up as political leader of the party?
I see you've called me here for much more than diplomatic passports. I don't mind that.
Don't go there.
What is the relationship like between you and your leader, Dr. Mitchell, your boss, Dr. Mitchell?
I'm not sure how to explain how to answer this question at this time. I prefer not to answer.
Don't go there.
They said that you approached the bank for the loan before the election and that it only materialized after the election. There are also conflicting reports around the quantity of monies that were received. What is the reality here?
People try to extort the truth and to make all kinds of things about it. I just stay quiet. So if you notice, I was really and truly quiet about the whole matter.
Well, except with not with the New Today newspaper. The New Today newspaper reported on this, so I'm not sure you were quiet on this. Go ahead, Honorable. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to answer your question, right?
Don't go there.
I think we just spoke at length about the regularization framework. So
yes, we did. But let us talk, Prime Minister. Let us talk about the workers who are dismissed.
The Bob Report. We go there.
A pleasant good morning to one and all, and we welcome you to this week's edition of the Bob Report. Of course, we know that this is a very busy Easter weekend, and I suspect many folks may not have time to be watching the Bob Report this week, as most of you are probably down at the Carifta Games at the Grenada, the Granny James Athletic Stadium in St. George. Of course, Grenada and other Caribbean teams are competing for Caribbean glory. And Grenada is hosting the games in very short order, given the fact that Guyana declined to host the games in 2026. So we do wish all our athletes the very best. We wish our athletes the very best, Team Grenada, and all our Caribbean athletes, really, because at the end of the day, after Carifta comes the Olympics, and whichever country goes off to represent the region at the Olympics or at the Diamond Leagues or at the World Champions, they are indeed representing the region. And Carifta is certainly an opportunity for us to be able to see the best of Grenada and the Caribbean on display. So we know that the Grenada Broadcasting Network, they are carrying the Carifta Games live. So I will, at some point following today's program, in fact, to have a chance to look at the games myself from afar, of course. And of course, tell us where you're watching the program from. Tell us where you're watching the Bob Report from. We have here this morning already, we have somebody saying, good morning, Dr. Bob. That's Agnes. I think that's Henry. Agnes Henry, welcome to the stream. Good morning and welcome to you. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'm glad you're joining us today. Who else is in here? And of course, folks, as you're coming into the program today, please remember to like and share this week's live stream as well. So what we want to do, folks, before we get on to the first segment, it is customary that we have our editorial for the week. And of course, we are going to begin with that. Now, the United States military campaign against Iran, launched in February in concert with Israel, is not merely a conflict over nuclear proliferation, so-called nuclear proliferation, or a regional dominance. It is at its core a war with deep economic underpinnings, rooted in Washington's determination to protect the petrodollar system that has sustained the American financial infrastructure and has given the United States its ability to exercise financial supremacy for half a century. Now, the dollar remains the world's dominant reserve currency. And as of the third quarter of 2025, approximately 57% of global foreign exchange reserves were held in US dollar denominated assets, according to the International Monetary Fund's COFR data. Now, the dollar is also involved in roughly 89% of all global foreign exchange transactions, according to the Bank for International Settlements. Now, oil, the most widely traded physical commodity, has been priced almost exclusively in dollars since the 1974 arrangement between the US and Saudi Arabia, the so-called petrodollar compact, as it were. Every nation that imports oil must accumulate dollars, which in turn feeds demand for US Treasury securities and underpins the depth and liquidity of American financial markets. Now, leaders who have attempted to move oil trade away from the dollar have faced severe consequences. Saddam Hussein switched Iraq's oil sales to euros in the year 2000. The US invaded that country in 2003. Muammar Gaddafi proposed a gold-backed African currency for oil transactions. NATO, under the leadership of Obama and Clinton, as well as David Cameron in the UK, intervened in Libya in 2011. Yes, absolutely, Obama, the liberal president that everyone loves, okay? Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro, of course, was the latest victim of challenging the petrodollar. He pursued non-dollar oil trade with China and Russia. Washington imposed crippling sanctions on Venezuela as a result. They backed an opposition movement and later abducted Maduro earlier this year. Iran, which is now in the middle of an active war, has gone further than any of them. On the 15th of March 2026, something quietly monumental took place. An oil tanker owned by a Pakistani company made its way through the Strait of Hormuz, and the crude oil it carried was priced not in US dollars, but in Chinese yuan. On the same day, another vessel followed suit, taking the same yuan-based route. Two ships, two transactions. Together, they sent a message that a system built over the last 50 years might be starting to show signs of wear. This, folks, is all about the petrodollar. It's about how a few desert nations have gained more influence over the United States than most Americans realize. And of course, Western media will not have those conversations because a lot of Western media happen to be owned by the same oil interests whose interest it is to ensure that the messaging on Iran has nothing to do with oil and gas. And it's about what comes next for all of us as well. So folks, as we're observing all of these events happening in the Middle East, as a media scholar, I implore you to also be wary of your sources of media consumption. Be much more open-minded with being able to consume media outside of that Western media bubble. So just some food for thought. And of course, as we go to break, Let us see who else is here. Who else is here joining us today? We have, let's see, somebody's watching from Huddersfield. Somebody's watching us from Huddersfield. I think that is in the UK, that is in England. Let's see who else we have here. We have Lydia James from Canada. Auntie Pat Henry McIntyre is watching from beautiful Gulf Coast. In Grandance. Lydia is asking what I mean by that. What I mean by that with respect to Obama, everyone puts him on a pedestal. And the point is, he engaged in the same types of imperialist practices as other American presidents. That's all I'm saying. And it is my journalistic responsibility to do so. And whoever gets offended by that, clearly you have no sense of history. So that's what I mean by that. Okay, let's see who else is here. Ross Charles is joining us. Good morning, sir. We have, let's see who else we have here. We have John McQueen's mom here as well. All right, so folks, what we want to do now is to take our first break, and we'll be back for the first segment of the program. Please stand by for that.
Should your loved ones pass on, they deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.
We seek the truth.
Would you be handing your resignation to the Minister of Culture tomorrow, sir?
No, I will not.
Leader of the opposition, you have accused your government, sir, of using the Grenada Development Bank to facilitate the financing of personal loans for certain government ministers.
The other side is in no position to talk about those issues, and I will leave it there.
We discover new perspectives.
You know his leadership style. And so many are saying, why are you coming now to talk about those issues?
Now is the time to speak. You have the right to decide who will take over.
And you met with Dr. Mitchell, and perhaps you might want to confirm what that meeting was about in your response. But
Dr. Mitchell, like myself, are Grenadians.
We ask the right questions.
Why was there no report on the work done of the commission? And how is this new committee different from the commission that was initially established back in 2022? So who are these elements that are using you?
I'm disappointed in my political leader.
And why is that animating those political conversations now?
It's a very interesting question.
The Bub Reports with Dr. Kellon Bub. Thought-provoking, truthful, unbiased, and truly original reporting.
And folks, welcome back to the program. Somebody indicated that we were having some audio issues, but I think that should be resolved now. And we want to get straight into the the first segment of the program. And that has to do with the issue of childhood obesity in Grenada and the Caribbean. There has been an exponential rise in obesity and diet-related non-communicable diseases over the last 5 decades. Now, more than 60% of Caribbean adults are overweight or obese. More alarmingly, though, 20 to 35% of adolescents are overweight or obese. And of course, that will be the focus of our conversation today. Now, children who are overweight are significantly more to be overweight or obese in adulthood and have much greater lifetime with physical and mental health issues. Now, risk factors for hypertension and diabetes, as well as cardiovascular diseases, have already started to emerge in Caribbean children. More than half of the adult population in some Caribbean states suffers from metabolic syndrome, the presence of at least 3 of the 4 major risk factors for cardiovascular diseases and diabetes. And that includes things like raised blood pressure, insulin resistance, excess body fat around the waist, and abdominal cholesterol levels. Obesity is estimated to shorten lifespan by 9 years, and the last 9 years on average will be of poor quality. So here to make sense of what the Rotary Club of Grenada is doing to bring attention to this very critical issue, we have Rotarians Dr. Kevillian Andrew, as well as Rotarian Dr. Christopher Gilbert. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this week's edition of the Bub Report.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Yes, absolutely. Of course, the issue of childhood obesity, I just articulated the data here, and that, of course, came from the Caribbean Research Institute, that's called the Caribbean Public Health Agency, sorry, that's CARFA. Before we get into what Rotary is doing about this, what do you think are some of the factors that are contributing specifically to childhood obesity? Because growing up, when I grew up in Grenada, at least, that was not a thing. You know, kids ran around, right? Kids played outside. You know, children went to hunt crayfish, to fish for crayfish, right? You went to work the land. At least I can speak of my experience growing up in the country. But Dr. Andrew, if I may begin with you, where did that shift happen, and why is it happening?
So I may not have shared your experiences, but I do remember competitively swimming. And so
Yes.
I remember people around me being active. And so we may not have been doing the same things, but we were outside. And I
Correct.
do believe that with the introduction of technology, with the televisions and the phones and the iPads and all of these different devices, you've seen a shift in the preference of activities being inside and less mobile, as opposed to being outside and moving around. And then when you couple that with all of the advertising of the sweet drinks and all of these things, those behavioral changes, I do believe, are a major component of why we're seeing that shift over time.
Dr. Gilbert, you're from St. Patrick, sir. Have you been seeing anecdotally in your neighborhoods, I mean, you know, young people also having that lifestyle shift?
Yes, I do agree. And in addition to what Dr. Kevlian has mentioned, I think one of the factors that does affect this or help push this along is the fact that parents nowadays are so afraid of their children getting hurt. So in yard playing, based on their experience, you know, I would have run in the garden, I code and treated. So now parents are trying to prevent the same issues from happening to their children. So now they decide to go the safe route. You give them the tablet, keep them inside, you know, encourage them to stay inside and play inside, socialize inside, as opposed to going out. The next issue with that, now that they are staying inside, they have an opportunity to see what's in the fridge. And in the fridge, there was the ice cream. Whereas for us, what we see, the mango and the cherry, so then we gravitated to those things. And in a way that helped curb the whole obesity issue.
So let us get to, and you reference those lifestyle changes. A lot of it has to do with just how the society has changed as well, right? So, I mean, you know what happens when your children go outside and what can potentially happen. But we still have those outlets, whether it's sports, you know, whether it's, you know, football, cricket, whatever the case might be. Are you also seeing trends where perhaps kids are also not interested in those anymore?
Yes, I would say so. When you have less competing interests, you'll have a natural uptake in what already exists. And so I do think that because technology has become more accessible, more available to the vast majority, and it's probably, I guess, easier. I am very grateful to my parents. I didn't bring myself to training. You also have that layer of parental support to have that activity being done on a consistent basis. Not all parents can do that, but lots of parents are working crazy hours just to put food on the table. And so it's a multifactorial situation. So I do think there has probably been a decrease in over the years, and it's contributing to the obesity that we're seeing.
Now, let us get to what the Rotary Club of Grenada is doing to bring attention to this issue. And before we get to the projects that that falls under, why did Rotary decide to take this up as a cause?
Well, on a broad perspective, Rotary International, or Rotary all over the world, we're a group of people who, you know, we want to unite for good and make lasting changes, come together to create lasting changes locally, regionally, and internationally. And so they've created these causes or these areas that allow us to focus in on specific issues. And so the program we're going to talk about, the Childhood Obesity Prevention Program, it actually spans two of those causes, one of them being fighting disease, and then the other one being improving maternal and child health. And the emphasis in this case would be on the child health. And so this is a district program, so it's greater than Grenada. It encompasses the Rotary clubs in the southern part of the Caribbean. The district said, hey, we're seeing childhood obesity increasing at an alarming rate. Let's do something about that. And so that's kind of where the program came about, where they have different objectives. For example, one objective is we want to increase the water consumption in school-age children. So children ages 5 to 9 is where they've kind of focused in. And it's like, okay, so we're going to do this. What are the goals we want to achieve? By 2025, we want 70% of the participating primary schools to be able to have provided safe, adequate drinking water for students, you know, by either implementing water fountains or giving them reusable water bottles. Or we want 70% of participating primary schools to have eliminated the consumption of sugar-sweetened beverages, which have been shown to contribute to the obesity problem. And so that childhood obesity program or initiative that was put out by the district allows all of the different Rotary clubs to kind of pick and choose the ways we can physically and financially afford to join the fight, you know, against childhood obesity.
And Dr. Christopher, I'm going to bring you in here. Dr. Christopher Gilbert. I know another Dr. Christopher. But let us talk about, in the context of Rotary, how you are, I suppose, executing this project. And how are you sensitizing the public to, hey, that Rotary actually has this project on board, and how can folks get involved?
Okay. So like Dr. Kevlian mentioned, so there are some initiatives that was brought on by the district 7030. And so last year we had as part of the initiative where we had the physical activity aspect. So that time we didn't get much support like what we expected. So this year we have decided to use a different initiative, which was also introduced by the Rotary district. And this one is the More Water issue. So the objective here is, how are we going to get that? We are going to tap a specific group of students in a specific grade. So we're looking at both the primary school, and not just public, but also private schools, that the grade 3 at a specific age, like the 5 to 9 age. That's who we are really targeting. And the idea is to really get them when they are young. Yes, at that time they are very impressionable. We are going to use a lot of friendly, like children-friendly language to try to get to them. We are hoping that their parents would encourage the act, encourage them to continue, hopefully see the benefit and continue with that. And we have decided to use water bottles. The water bottles are solid. They are reusable. So not just bottles that you get and you use once, you discard. There are bottles that are labeled by the Rotary Club and by our sponsor, to have the children continually use those bottles to consume their water from that. Now, the simple fact of label is a form of advertisement and encouragement So the idea, once other students see that, they are hopefully encouraged to be a part of that, the next time it rolls around. So that's the plan, that's the idea that we have to go about doing that. Yeah.
Are there particular schools in Rotary's district in Grenada that would be part of the target audience? How would you determine who would get involved in that water bottle campaign, for example?
Already decided the number.
You're breaking up there for a second, so I'm going to have Dr. Andrew jump in.
Yes, so some schools have been identified in the St. George's, St. Mark's area for delivering of the bottles. And so if I can just show, this is an example of the bottle. And this is the slogan that the district came up with. I don't know if you're seeing it, more water, less sugar. And like Doc said, it is—
Yes, we're seeing it, yes.
Nice. It is branded with the Rotary Club of Grenada. And so that's part of the advertising, as well as our sponsor, who is Quark Bank. And so if you can hear, it's an aluminum bottle, because again, we want to move away from the plastics in terms of being environmentally friendly, that type of thing. And so we've identified some public schools from, like I said, St. George's, St. Mark's, St. John's areas. The president has been so helpful reaching out to the ministry. We've gotten the list of the schools, the numbers of students in the grade 3 level, and we are also working on, for the same areas, getting a list of the numbers and schools that are private, because we want to be able to cover as much or a broad base as possible. I believe we have about 800 bottles that we're trying to distribute in this first instance, but the hope is to continue this initiative going forward, so that kind of everybody has a bottle, and we encourage the students to be using these bottles, to be drinking the water more than sugar-sweetened beverages, and hopefully have them be little advocates in their families and their communities, because obesity is not just affecting the child population. As you excellently said in the beginning, this is a global phenomenon that we're facing.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. What is the timeline for this initiative? How long is it expected to last? Is it going to be a year, 2 years? How is Rotary envisioning this perhaps to be, and maybe Dr. Gilbert can chime in here, perhaps to be a long-term, short-term initiative? What's that looking like there? I don't think Dr. Gilbert can hear us, but go ahead, Dr. Andrew. Yes.
So it's more of a long-term initiative, part of Rotary's the modus operandi is that you want to implement a change, but you also want to follow it up and make sure that it's having the impact that you want to have, and that impact is being measured. And so in the first instance, we kind of want to distribute the bottles over a week period or a 2-week period when the students go back to school after the Easter break. But we are planning to implement ways of trying to track the uptake of this. Okay, we've given the grade 3 students the bottles. Are they bringing the bottles to school? Are they using the bottles to drink water? We don't want to just hand out the bottles and then walk away. We want to see that there is actually some lasting change that has been created out of this initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Gilbert is saying that he's having some connection issues. It's always an issue in Grenada with the internet sometimes. But I do want to get to a view. Okay, so Dr. Gilbert, I think you are back. Can you hear us now, sir?
I'm here.
Good. I know how the internet works in Grenada sometimes. So believe me, whenever we have folks coming in, I say, I have to always caveat that, that there might be some internet issue with Flow Digicel. They're not sponsoring this program, so I can bad talk them as much as I want to. And I would not be approaching them for sponsorship either. Either way, I don't want corporate sponsors on this show. But but that aside, folks, of course, you've heard Dr. Andrew here, Dr. Gilbert, with respect to what you want the project to look like. Someone is saying that, this should be a national activity. I suppose, I guess what they're saying here is that Rotary is indeed setting the example. Your thoughts, Dr. Gilbert? We still can't hear him. We still can't hear him. Yes, but someone in the comment section is saying that you guys seem to be setting that example here, and perhaps this should be national. Have you had a partnership? But who are the other people in the community that is partnering with you on this?
So we want to give an excellent shout out to Co-op Bank. They are a major sponsor. I do agree that it should be a national initiative, but we are always limited by certain things, example, finances. And so we are grateful to Co-op Bank for their collaboration with this initiative. It actually ties in really nicely to their healthy lifestyle program that started in 2008. And I think most Grenadians will be familiar with the Pump It Up Family Fun Walk. And so in collaboration with them, their major thing has been that family fun walk every year. And so they actually take the proceeds from that and feed back into local programs and initiatives that are health focused. So we are just one of those examples where Co-op Bank is continuing their healthy lifestyle program of having people move and providing persons with necessary information on health. And so major shout out to them. That's why they're on the logo on the bottle, for their ability to finance this initiative, which allows us as the Rotary Club of Grenada to even start this project. Fingers crossed, we'll be bigger and better as we continue. But yeah, they're a major supporting factor in this.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Let's see if we can hear Dr. Gilbert. Dr. Gilbert, can you say something? No?
Yeah.
No. Okay, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It was not meant to be this morning. But let's get to some other viewer comments here, and then we'll get to the second segment shortly. Let's see here. Somebody's saying, as parents, let me put it up on the screen here. As parents, we are responsible for our children's well-being. Limit iPad time and make sure that kids exercise. When Steve Jobs was asked if his child loved the iPad, he responded, "They don't have one." Think about that. Your thoughts?
That is very correct. That is something I have been aware of for quite some time. And it kind of scares you that if the engineering mind behind this technology does not want to give it to their own offspring, that should definitely have us pause and think about the benefits of giving it to our children. And that could be a whole different conversation outside of the reduced physical activity into how it's overstimulating their brains, how attention spans have decreased. It's a whole host of things, but definitely, yes, parents do have a responsibility to guide their children in their upbringing, but I don't want to say that to make parents feel any type of way, because I think what has also happened over time is that it's easier to stick a device in a child's hand so that you don't have to be on them or engaging with them while you're trying to clean up the house and do this and do that. So I think it's a balancing act. And maybe if we look at it from a more of a community supportive approach, we may be able to better tease out what are the stressors and the struggles that parents are facing and how that's impacting their ability to raise their children in a certain way.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, and now my internet seems to be struggling here. I don't know if you can hear me. But Dr. Andrea, I want to give you an opportunity for some closing comments.
Yes, I just wanted to say a very big thank you to you for giving us this platform and this opportunity to speak about this initiative that we're going to be embarking on to join with the district in increasing the water consumption in childhood, in our children of childhood age. And we want to say thank you also to Co-op Bank for their sponsoring and partnering with us so that we can do this initiative. And a little thought that children are very excellent observers and mirrors. And so it's one thing to give them the bottle and tell them drink the water. It's another thing for us to live by example so that they see us as adults drinking the water and choosing that over a Coke or a sugar sweetened beverage so that they then mirror those same behaviors. And so we kind of always want to be mindful of that. And we work together to create the world that we hope to see.
Yes, absolutely. Dr. Gilbert and Dr. Andrew, thank you so much for representing the Rotary Club today. We do apologize for the internet, sir, but we certainly want to have you back on a serious note to talk about the progress of this very important initiative, and of course to compliment Rotary for taking that on, because it certainly is an epidemic right now in Grenada and the Caribbean among children. That can't be good for other outcomes that we want for society, for other productive outcomes that we want for society. Okay, so folks, what we want to do now is thank you again. We'll take a quick break and come back for the second segment of the program. So let us stand by for that, folks. My internet seems to be struggling over here as well. So do bear with us as we attempt to resolve this issue here.
They deserve to be treated with dignity. And at S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, we can provide you with that service. We can take you every step of the way during your sorrowful moments. When that need arises, call S.A. Johnson Funeral Home at 347-777-9797. That's 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home is a Caribbean family-owned funeral home here in Brooklyn, providing funeral services, but in a dignified way. From cremation to burial to the repatriation of your loved ones, you don't have to go through the hassle, as we provide exceptional service that allows you to mourn and heal peacefully. For more information, visit our website, www.sajohnsonfuneral.org. Send us an email at sajfuneral@aol.com or call 347-777-9797. S.A. Johnson Funeral Home, because you deserve to be treated with dignity.
Don't go there.
You are a technocrat. I mean, you can speak to whether or not it was appropriate or inappropriate for that to occur. Would you have done that as a permanent secretary?
Politicians get the information from wherever source that they can.
That's going to be the extent of your answer.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
There's a lot of noise around the data protection bill that, in my respectful view, is not warranted.
I was one of those making noise, and it's simply because I was concerned about that specific section 33.
Don't go there.
Are you going to be offering yourself up as political leader of the party?
I see you've called me have much more than diplomatic passports. I don't buy that.
Don't go there.
What is the relationship like between you and your leader, Dr. Mitchell, your boss, Dr. Mitchell?
I'm not sure how to explain how to answer this question at this time. I prefer not to answer.
Don't go there.
They said that you approached the bank for the loan before the election and that it only materialized after the election. There are also conflicting reports around the quantity of monies that were received. What is the reality here?
People try to extort the truth and to make all kinds of things about it. I just stay quiet. So if you notice, I was really and truly quiet about the whole matter.
Well, except with not with the New Today newspaper. The New Today newspaper reported on this, so I'm not sure you were quiet on this. Go ahead, Honorable. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to answer your question, right?
Don't go there.
I think we just spoke at length about the regularization framework. So
yes, we did. But let us talk, Prime Minister. Let us talk about the workers who are dismissed.
The Bub Report. We go there.
And folks, welcome back to this week's edition of the Bub Report. Of course, we are still having some internet issues here, but the show must go on. The show must go on today. And for the second segment of our program, we are joined by the Member of Parliament for the constituency of St. George Northeast, who at the last NDC convention was also elected its public relations officer. That is the Honorable Ron Redhead. Of course, the Honorable Ron Redhead inherits the constituency of one of Grenada's greatest statesmen, the late George Brizan. It's also one of the most populous constituencies in the parish of St. George. Of course, Mr. Redhead's father was also involved in trade union activism. I had the pleasure and honor of working with the late, great comrade Martin Redhead at the Grenada Broadcasting Network, and I had the privilege of learning a lot at his feet. So for this extensive conversation, we are going to discuss the current state of the National Democratic Congress, its upcoming future plans and programs, and we are going to attempt to see if perhaps Mr. Redhead can give us a sense of if or when there might be an election happening that would be called by his esteemed political leader, Prime Minister, the Honorable Deacon Mitchell. Honorable Ron Redhead, happy Easter and welcome to this week's edition of the Bob Report, sir. It's been a long time coming.
Yes, very much so. Thank you very much, Dr. Bob, and to you and your viewers, listeners as well. Happy Easter, each and every one of you.
Yes, absolutely, sir. So, Mr. Redhead, before we get into it, of course, you know, we always see you on the platforms, you know, articulating the party, your party's position and all of that. But sometimes I like to bring some human interest into these conversations. And I do have a list of icebreaker questions here before we get into the conversations that I want to ask. Now, if you could have any superpower, what superpower would you choose?
Well, the superpower I'll choose certainly would be flight. I would certainly like to lift up and look at the country, the island, wherever, from a bird's eye view.
Well, they call that ligaroo, you know. You know that there's a term for that. They call that a ligaroo. So you want to be a ligaroo. Okay. Okay. All right. If you could do anything in the next year, what would it be outside of politics?
Right. If I could do anything, and that's if I would like to, upon completing the master's, pursue a doctorate.
Okay. In what would you research?
Specifically, I would like to do something in banking, finance in particular.
Okay, very well. What's your most powerful and vivid memory?
My most powerful and vivid memory, I would have to say, of my father and family by extension in terms of growing up, you know, certainly liking politics.
Liking politics. I mean, I can see why, given who your father is, I can see why probably you chose that path. And finally, what's the best advice you've received, sir?
I think the best advice that I have ever received is an advice which would say to me that as much as you can help others, don't forget to look after yourself. And so that is an advice that I have been able to incorporate in my effort and work so far, and it is paying off.
It is paying off. Very well. Excellent. So now let's get into the conversation, sir. As I said, it's been a long time coming. But, you know, world events and news and all of that sometimes takes on a life of its own. And so sometimes we've had to reschedule you on the occasions when you were supposed to be here. But let us begin by talking about the state of the National Democratic Congress with respect to its organization. And we're talking here its General Council Secretariat, the work of the party in the various constituency branches, the work of the party at the executive level. What is the machinery looking like?
Well, the machinery is active. It is constantly going. And I'll put it this way, that preparation, although some may say that you are either ready or not ready, but preparation in the political field is always an ongoing process. And so we continue to oil the machinery. The General Secretary of the party is best placed to speak in terms of all of the intricacies. But as it stands now, we continue to do what is necessary and oil the machinery as we prepare.
What about attracting new members? What's that looking like? Have you been able to attract new members? Historically, the thought process has been that the National Democratic Congress has a very small base in Grenada. And so your path to 8 seats in the parliament always relied on independent swing voters. Do you feel as if you're satisfied that you now have a base that can rival that of the natural base of the new national party?
Every election cycle is a different experience. Certainly where we sit, the membership of the party, it has been growing, particularly at the constituency level. So as it relates to registration of new party members, this is something always ongoing. At almost all of the constituency offices, new people have come forward, at least within the last 2 years, to hold positions either that they never held before or positions to which they are new to because they have just joined the political organization. So we are confident. And in addition to that, there is also somewhat of the natural retention percentage that is expected, that once you come into office, you will have people, one or two, disgruntled. But by and large, we are confident that we have been able to maintain the base of the National Democratic Congress and also grow it.
Mm-hmm. You acknowledged there, Mr. Redhead, that the folks, one or two, might be disgruntled. It's good to hear that acknowledgement. You said one or two might be disgruntled.
Well, it's a natural occurrence in politics. Whether you're in opposition or in the government, there naturally would be one or two people who may feel disgruntled. Either they didn't get, let's say, for example, housing assistance soon enough, that sort of thing, and therefore they might feel a bit disappointed after putting in so much work. But it's a normal process of the political scene.
How do you intend to treat with that? And is that something that the party has discussed? Because the feeling is that there are NDC supporters who are in fact disgruntled, but who are not necessarily going to publicly articulate their frustrations with the party.
It's not a major issue at this point, and therefore it doesn't require necessarily, widespread aggression to be able to come. The National Democratic Congress of today is far more stable than it was. We can boast, apart from the one instance where one cabinet member had to be fired, we generally have remained extremely stable. And this is the first in a long time for the National Democratic Congress. And therefore, where we sit, this is not necessarily an issue per se as a major concern.
Okay. Now, of course, last year, Minister Redhead, the National Democratic Congress held, it was dubbed the Things Happening rally, in which you had very high-profile friends and guests from the region. I believe you had the Prime Minister of St. Lucia was there, as well as the Prime Minister of Dominica, that's Prime Minister Skerritt. Convention 2026, what's on the cards for Convention 2026?
Right. Well, let me just inform, the convention will not be held in 2026, given that we have amended our constitution to allow for 2 years to occur before we host another convention. What we have upcoming on the calendar is General Council, which again is a second to our convention. And that is certainly something that we will announce to the nation once the time is there. Just to add, having amended the constitution, the convention, or the executive rather, is in for 2 years before a next national convention could be held, which will take us naturally into 2027.
So the next convention, therefore, would be an election year convention in that case, because you're running out the clock there. Well, based on the constitution, not the NDC, of course, based on the constitution. So that's what you're saying here.
Yes. So the constitution of the NDC has been amended to allow for national executive to be elected for a period of 2 years. And then, of course, naturally, 2027 is in accordance with
the election year. Yeah. So, in the context of what will be happening before that convention, of course, on the side of the opposition, we have witnessed the very high-profile caretaker candidate launches that they have meted out. We've seen a very, very high-profile one in your comrade sister Delma Thomas's constituency in St. Andrew Northwest. What is the NDC doing on its end? You did mention earlier with respect to the machinery of the party, oiling the machinery and getting the machinery ready. Is getting the machinery ready also factored in the caretaker candidates that you will be rolling out to the public? And when are we expected to see that happen?
Right. Yeah, so this is a process that is ongoing. At this present moment, it is internal and is largely led by the Honorable Prime Minister and team. That is the General Secretary, the Honorable Prime Minister, and the constituency groups or executives. And so right now we are in the mode of assessing, reassessing, engaging, which is a normal part of what we are expected to do. We are not in the process of handpicking anyone. Even the Honorable Prime Minister, and this is noteworthy to mention, has been subjected to an assessment, so to speak, and have faced a panel of great Grenadian women and men who are aligned with the National Democratic Congress to assess his own efforts thus far over the last 4 years or so. And so we believe that from a democratic standpoint, and ensuring that the engagement is not just on a friend-to-friend basis, but something deep, something that is reflective of the aspirations and wishes of the National Democratic Congress base, and by extension, the Grenadian people. We have taken the road to utilize that said model. So it's going to take longer, so to speak, to release names officially, but we are definitely going through that process.
So all 15 candidates that contested in the last election, but who perhaps currently have a role in government by way of a ministerial position, or who is an MP like yourself, all of you are up for scrutiny.
All are up for scrutiny.
Yeah, and have other folks come forward to offer themselves as perhaps candidates in the various constituencies?
Yes, but where we are now is not at the level to openly accept bidding. There is a scrutiny process, as you have described it, which is currently ongoing, and we continue to engage in that process as we go forward. Certainly giving the existing representatives an opportunity to answer questions, to respond, and also to prove themselves as we go on.
So based on the NMP's slate of candidates, you've looked at the slate, I'm sure, you are political animals. You've looked at the slate that they have released. Is there any consideration for second thoughts in any of the constituencies that says, based on who was released there, that we have to perhaps examine our strategy for that particular constituency and rethink who a potential caretaker candidate would be for that constituency?
No, and insofar as it is in relation to our process, we are running our own race. I really would not have any specific views on the opposition and the quality of their candidates. That is a matter for them. I don't know what process they use, but we certainly can speak to our process.
Well,
yeah.
So you say you're running your own race, but let's be realistic. The NDC is not going to be competing against itself in an election.
That is correct. But who we are asking to support is from the people. And so when we say we are running our own race, is to get from us the most appropriate representatives to return to the people, to make it clear these are the things we campaigned on. These are what we have achieved. This is what we aim to achieve, and to take it from there. But in terms of competition like that, we are not concerned about what happens with constituency X in terms of who is placed there as the opposition. What we are concerned is winning the seat, and that is the primary focus.
And I suspect you're probably doing that internal work. Obviously, political parties have their internal mechanisms for determining those things. But let us talk about the Democratic People's Movement. That is the new kid on the block. And that is a question that I did pose to the Honorable Emmeline Pear, and I will pose it to you as well. I'm not, again, I have no skin in any political game, as I've said before. But the question that I posed to her was whether or not the presence of Peter David's Democratic People's Movement will have an impact on the base of the party. In other words, and that was the New National Party, and of course I would ask you the same thing in the context of the National Democratic Congress, whether or not disaffected folks within the rank and file of your party would see Peter David's movement as an attractive alternative to either both your party or to the New National Party. Is that something that the NDC is concerned about? Or is that something that you've discussed at all?
Well, at present, we do not have any data to support that, but certainly from a standpoint of brotherly well-wishing, we wish the Honorable Peter David all the best in his new endeavors. This is something that we've spoken about at the level of Parliament as well. I think it's good for democracy when we can have multiple parties. Where we believe it comes down to the choice for the Grenadian people is whether or not what is being put forward is something credible, one, and two, who and which group is not just best suited, but most appropriate, given all of the global situation, given all of our local situation, to be able to implement and to remain focused and deliver benefits to the Grenadian people. And I think it's going to come down to that. You know, from the standpoint where we sit, we have no skin in the game, just like you have said, in terms of who else is putting themselves up. It's a democracy. And we certainly encourage this, and we look forward and wish everybody all the best in the upcoming election, whenever it is announced.
Well, Mr. David and Mr. Gilder, they were supposed to be here this week. They promised us that they were going to come on, but they have not, and I'm calling them out just the same. But of course, both Mr. Gill and Mr. David, sir, they're past GBSS students like yourself there. So Mr. Ashby must be very proud that many of his students are getting involved in politics.
That is correct. And they're also two of my constituents.
They live in your constituency?
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. So I have to look after them as well as member of parliament.
Well, I didn't know that. That is good to know. That is good to know.
Very much. In the lovely community of Montparnasse.
Montparnasse. Okay. Very, very lovely community there. You have some very high profile folks in Montparnasse, you know, who live there. Okay. Now, Minister, MP Redhead, let us get on to, of course, I suppose the news du jour, the news of the day, if you will, in Grenada right now. And that has to do with Project Polaris. Of course, you know, the NDC, both the party and the government, they announced with great fanfare with the sod turning ceremony for the commencement of construction of a new general hospital in Grenada. Can you talk about, with respect to, of course, and we can all agree that healthcare in Grenada, it has always been a challenge historically. Systemically, it's challenging as well. Folks go to the hospital and they see it as a waiting room to heaven. You know, and this may sound facetious, but that's just the sad reality of things, right? I've had those personal experiences with family members who've been there, and the experiences were not necessarily ones that were extremely pleasant because of the systemic issues that transcends administrations, you know, and I think that's very important for us to acknowledge. But with respect to Project Polaris, how does the party see it? And talking about promoting government's agenda, that is now the party promoting what the government does. Project Polaris, what is the government's or the party's approach to promoting that particular signature initiative of the government?
Well, we are very much supportive of the Honorable Prime Minister and team. And by extension, I want to single out Ambassador Andrea St. Bernard. I would also like to single out Mr. Dolan, who is involved in the steering committee, and also PS, who is on assignment, Ms. Britton, who is on assignment at the delivery unit with Project Polaris. Now, we see Project Polaris as an essential part of the revitalization the transformation of healthcare in Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. And by this, what we are talking about here is not just the construction of the new research hospital, but something more than that, which is the medical village, which we believe will have tremendous potential to diversify our tourism product and to allow medical tourism to be something that we can now focus on. And so we are essentially satisfied with the efforts thus far, coming from the sword turning ceremony at least 2 weeks ago, and ensuring that from that sword turning ceremony, which has occurred, that we can commence construction. Right now, different site visits are ongoing for different stakeholder groups, special stakeholder groups, as the team sees it. That's Project Polaris team. And so they continue to engage with the public. We are satisfied that all T's have been crossed, all I's have been dotted as it relates to this project. And in particular, I want to take the opportunity to explain, while we had this vision to transform healthcare, we could not do it within the current construct of the existing hospital in terms of where we expect to take it. And therefore, the government had to create a delivery mechanism or delivery unit in this instance, which is one of 4 delivery units that will be created under the National Democratic Congress. So we've created the one for health. We will create the one for education and roll out centers of excellence. We will create the one for energy. And we have also begun to create one for housing that is under Project 500 already. So those 4 areas we see as key or mission critical in terms of areas that we can transform. While there are other areas, so you can take agriculture, for example. But one of the challenges with the agricultural sector is that some of the elements that we have met, we will have to keep and enhance as we go, and then be able to get people up to speed, so to speak, with where we need to transform agriculture to go. So for example, when we talk, hopefully we can have a discussion on that, the question of food security. But in any event, the hospital is going to be a critical part of where we want to see the transformation in healthcare go. That is the perspective, certainly from the National Democratic Congress, and we are fully in support of the government of Grenada for this transformative initiative. Thus far, the government has raised in excess of $180 million US. The total to roll out the entire medical village is somewhere to the tune of $250 million US. And so far, we believe that they have started on a good path.
Very well, Honorable MP Redhead. With respect to Project Polaris, have you been following the public concerns that has been raised, for example, by the opposition with respect to, essentially what they're saying is that there are more questions than answers with respect to the bidding process, who the contractors are going to be on the project, the funding mechanisms that would inform, of course, and Ms. Sen Bernard on this program, she articulated the source, some of the source of funds from OPEC and from the Kuwaiti fund. She articulated all of those, but the opposition still has concerns with respect to how this project is funded. They've also expressed concern with respect to how the sale of the land and the process that went into that, and the people who are involved in the construction of the medical city. Is that something that has been brought to your attention as an NDC? And how are you treating with those?
Right. Well, first off, this is something that has been, I would say, explained to the executive. So we are just in the listening mode, simply because we have allowed our government, through the delivery unit and mechanism, to listen to any critique that is going to be put out there. So there is no defense, so to speak. And I want to start on that note, because I think it's important when dealing with an issue of healthcare of that magnitude. All might or should be welcome to critique. That is a right of the people. And so remember, this is taxpayers' money. And on that note, I want to take the opportunity to say that Project Polaris is not a private thing. It is a public initiative and venture that is currently ongoing. And therefore, if the opposition has any genuine concern, they can write through the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee to request any specific information that they wish. That is one. Two, as it relates to following all of the rules, the delivery unit is under or subjected to the Public Finance Management Act, which specifically guides how public funds are to be expended and the process that it can take. We are confident that there is no breach of this trust, of public trust, as it relates to the purchase of the property. What has happened in relation to some of the concerns, whether real or imagined or genuine or disingenuous or mischievous, that is for people to decide. But where we sit, we certainly welcome the criticism, but there is no hanky-panky as it relates to this very important project.
Mm-hmm. Of course, and you know, and again, and this is a conversation that I've always had with anyone of any side really. But in the context of the National Democratic Congress, your ethos are guided by three key words: transparency, accountability, good governance. Of course, former Prime Minister Tillman Thomas, that's what he was famous for. Of course, I respect Tillman Thomas's work as a public servant in Grenada. I mean, he went to jail for that purpose under the Grenada Revolution, for his journalism, by the way. Tillman Thomas went to jail for his journalism in Grenada. And that is a sacrifice that, as somebody in this field, I pay absolute respect to for that work. But there has been these prevailing narratives that the current NDC administration, that they don't necessarily live up to the ethos of the party: transparency, accountability, and good governance. What say you?
Well, I do not share that view, and I think we have done an excellent job thus far in ensuring that we are operating above board, doing everything that is in the best interest. And I can go even further, just to add, without segueing specifically from Project Polaris. But let me say this, that where we sit, and in our analysis from the standpoint of government, we do not see any attempt to damage, harm our country financially. And allow me to explain what I mean by that. When we analyze the performance of all of the statutory bodies, including Marketing Board, we believe that this administration is on the right path in terms of our development. And I can give just two examples, or at least three. One certainly is Marketing Board. When we came into office, this board was fraught with chronic corruption, chronic financial mismanagement, among other elements, which caused it repeatedly over a prolonged period or sustained period to operate in a loss. Today, notwithstanding that we've had to retrench workers, among other elements, to restructure the board, today it is operating generally with a profit. And this is something that we believe, once the transition takes place to transition it into IMEXA, it is going to be good for the farmers. It is going to be good for agriculture in Grenada, Carriacou, Martinique. This is only one instance. Two, I would like to chime in and particularly address some of this whole perception about corruption. Now, no government, as I know it, could prevent these things. Because remember, what you need is people who are corrupt and accomplices. We are satisfied, however, that as it stands so far, we have not seen that. And I'll go to another statutory board. Let's look at Gravel and Concrete, for example. And let's look at the financial situation of Gravel and Concrete. So if this accusation is being laid against the government and statutory boards as corrupt, why is it therefore that the books are recording in extremely impressive fashion a vast turnaround from when we inherited most of the state boards post the last election to now? So Gravel and Concrete, for example, operated largely at a loss. When we came in, there were only 2 trucks, and those trucks were almost non-functional. So far, today, at least on the books, Gravel and Concrete has made, last year in particular, they closed at $33 million in profit. That is one. Two, we now stand at 11 trucks. So coming from a situation just almost 3 years ago, or under 3 years ago, to now, we see a vast difference. And the same is true with NLA in terms of what it was making. So it was pulling somewhere around $16 million annually. Today, it is up. The last figure we have is about $123 million. Similarly with Marketing Board. And so the point is, even if one is to single out a specific occurrence, which we may not from central government have total control over in terms of stopping. Remember, I just said, this is something that is individual. So if someone engages in corruption, we may not be able to stop it. That is why the law is there, and therefore we expect the law to take its course, if there is any evidence of that. But so far, in terms of the performance of the board, we do not see a worsening of the situation in what is being described. Certainly, I assume you're alluding to it in terms of this mass corruption, because you talk about transparency, accountability, and we have been accountable. In fact, in all of the statutory boards, well, maybe not all of them, but the majority, they are now more up to date in terms of filing their annual reports to the Ministry of Finance, right? And I can speak to Spice Mass, I can speak to NLA, I can speak to Gravel and Concrete, and including now Marketing Board, which is being worked on. We've just had the 2021 or 2020 financial report that was laid before Parliament in the last lower house sitting. So we are very much confident, and then as it relates to central government, we have been able to introduce tremendous reforms at the level of the Ministry of Finance, and also enforce, even to our political detriment, I would add, the rules of the Ministry of Finance and under the Public Finance Management Act, to be able to ensure that we have accountable, safe government spending. And I will add, just to end, that when we came in, this whole question about financial threats, when we came in, the contingency fund on paper had a particular sum, but when we checked with the account in ECCB, it was zero. Today, coming from 2025 December, we can boast of having placed in the ECCB under Grenada's contingency fund $61 million, and we did not have to touch it for Hurricane Beryl recovery.
Honorable MP, you've opened a can of worms here, if you will, and which is now leading me, to ask a few follow-up questions based on what you just articulated. One, you referenced the financial statements from state boards. According to the chair of the Fiscal Responsibility Oversight Committee, Laurel Bain, who appeared on the program last week, in fact, in that FROC report that was submitted to Parliament, she indicated that none of the statutory bodies submitted audited financial statements to the Fiscal Responsibility Oversight Committee. And so the question is, and while you're saying that there might have been changes and with respect to what they have submitted, Laurel Bain does not agree with what you've just articulated here. So again, right. You're not in government, you are right. Just the P.R.O of the party. So I can appreciate that perhaps you may not be privy to all of that information, but that is what the Fiscal Responsibility Oversight Committee is saying.
Right, but let me
just I know you sit in Parliament as well. Yes, go ahead.
Right,
please.
Correct. What Ms. Laurel Bain, a distinguished Grenadian, is articulating are audited financial statements.
Correct, and there is a difference between audited financial statements right. and just them submitting it without scrutiny.
So let me say this. Let me add further. Remember, when we came in, I certainly served as a government minister, so I can speak with great certainty on the situation there. But when we came in, there are a number of statutory boards who did not even submit their financial statements, much less to have them audited. The audit department was significantly understaffed when we came in, and that was one of the concerns. We also was able to allow statutory bodies to pursue private auditors so that we could get them up to speed, up to mark, so that they can begin submitting. I am saying that at this point, the audited financial statements that is necessary for the oversight committee. That is a process between the oversight committee and also the statutory bodies. In fact, I serve on the privileges committee. And one of the challenges with the fiscal resilience oversight committee was that we needed an economist, a regional economist, to be placed on the board to begin that sort of overall scrutiny.
Forensic auditing, if you will.
Right. So this is something that I am certainly aware of. And I would go further to say that what we are confident of is that bringing the audited statements up to speed is something that is being worked on. We are confident also that having invested in directors or directorship training across the board in many of the statutory bodies, we believe that you will begin to see greater improvements in ensuring that we are falling in line, so to speak, with what is expected, what is required in terms of the standard and quality. So we are not at all offended by that. In fact, Ms. Bain, again, is a renowned economist and well respected in her field. And she speaks genuinely and openly. And as chairman of the P.R.O, I believe that she is doing an excellent job in ensuring that she is holding, whether it's executive or statutory bodies in this instance, SOEs, accountable, so that that question of accountability, public trust is maintained. That is important.
Now, you referenced earlier in your defense of the government's accountability, the fact that folks on statutory bodies, even though they work on those statutory bodies, that of course they may do things that are not in line with what their fiduciary obligations and responsibilities are. Of course, one of the statutory bodies that you referenced just now was the National Lotteries Authority. Of course, we were able to confirm that the chairman of the National Lotteries Board, that's Mr. William Batiste, he tendered his resignation. We got that confirmation from government, by way of the press secretary. Of course, Mr. William Batiste came in for heavy public scrutiny with respect to his own management of the National Lotteries Board. In fact, your former colleague, the Honorable Jonathan Lacrette, who also served in the ministry that you served in, he leveled particular allegations against Mr. William Batiste. In an interview with Callistra Farrier's The Narrative, Prime Minister Deacon Mitchell, he said he looked into those allegations and he did not see anything that rose to wanting to sanction the board or wanting to do any further investigation. In fact, he went on further to say that sometimes the NDC holds itself to a high standard of accountability that he sometimes says is unrealistic. But the reason why I'm bringing up Mr. Batiste here is the curious question of his resignation, sir. Is that something that you have been privy to, the resignation of Mr. Batiste? And it was Mr. Batiste's resignation owing to issues of performance or owing to issues of financial impropriety at the Lotteries Board?
Right. I have no information on the purpose, but I can confirm as well that Mr. Batiste did tender his resignation. But I have no information on the purpose of his resignation.
You don't know why he tendered his resignation? Is that a conversation? Obviously, you would know, you're not in the cabinet. But of course, in the context of Parliament now, the opposition leader has in fact triggered an investigation into the National Lottery Authority's board. I see you smiling here, but you say you sit on the Privileges Committee, and you just articulated the mechanism by which the Privileges Committee works. So can you talk about that investigation that she has called for and what that would look like, and their reaction to that investigation? Do you think that it is warranted?
Right. Well, let me put it this way. Absolutely, I cannot speak to it. When I say I sit on the Privileges Committee, we deal with specific issues, and the P.R.O is one of the committees that we are responsible for under the Privileges Committee, among other things. As it relates to the call and all these other things for the investigation,
yes,
I can't speak specific to that. I don't know that the Public Accounts Committee have powers to call for investigations. What I do know is that the Public Accounts Chair can request information. And
Which is the lead, the Public Accounts Chair, just for public education, is the lead of the opposition.
Right, correct.
Yes, okay, go ahead.
Right, and therefore that individual can request information. And I'm saying that if there is any evidence of any impropriety or whatever is being espoused, what I'm saying is that that committee will have the responsibility to find out, but I don't know that it could investigate. In addition to that, I just want to say that I stand fully by the statements by Prime Minister that you alluded to, that he said on a previous program or on another program. Because you see, at the end of the day, Kelon, and today is Carifta, we're celebrating a wonderful achievement. The stadium, the lights at the cricket stadium, was paid for by the National Lotteries Authority. The tracks that were renovated on 2 occasions were paid for by the National Lotteries Authority. The athletes who we have seen succeeded in the last Olympics when we got into office, they have been compensated in accordance with the National Policy on Sports and Physical Activity by the National Lotteries Authority. And therefore, where I sit, I am confident that over the last number of years, having seen the leadership and their performance, we see a drastic improvement in the quality of what NLA is able to give out. Now, gambling is a separate issue, may warrant a separate conversation and program to discuss and dissect.
I think it's a serious problem in the society.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And therefore, our speculations around whether or not we should be promoting gambling and so on is separate and apart from the conversation that we are having, because I'm saying to you, at this present moment, the board is being run effectively. Even with the resignation confirmed by the chair, there is no drop in the quality of the ability for assistance by the National Lotteries Authority. And so I am saying that it is not for me to speculate whether or not there are anything illegal. It is for the audit to confirm such, that's 1. 2, it is for the financial reports to confirm such. And then 3, in addition to the question of the Public Accounts Committee, it is for them to request information and then bring this to the fray. So I am saying that rather than going on all this wild allegation about what did happen and so on, let's just see the facts. And then when we see the reports, let's confirm in terms of what is being reported, whether or not there is any question of this whole talk about corruption.
Well, I mean, again, your former colleague, former Senator Jonathan Lacrette, you know, he made those allegations, you know, and he said he obviously didn't know why he was fired, but he speculated that perhaps him bringing those allegations to the Prime Minister perhaps led to his dismissal from the cabinet. I'm just articulating what he articulated when we did that interview with him.
Well, let me just say this, that the National Democratic Congress's hierarchy was briefed by the Honorable Prime Minister before any decision was made in relation to his cabinet. The cabinet meets with the leadership of the executive ever so often to discuss any pertinent issue that relates to our political party. And in particular, the Prime Minister, who is the leader of our party, meets with the National Executive ever so often. Cabinet ministers have to account to the executive ever so often. And therefore, where we sit, we have no concrete information in terms of what you had said, that was said as to why that was the case. That is certainly not the only instance.
All right. Well, let's go on, Minister Redhead. We did say no holds barred, so you're holding up very well as an esteemed GVSS alumni here. Okay. Some of your supporters are getting exercise in the comments. I don't know. I think we're having a great conversation. But let's go on. 3 final issues, sir. One has to do with the role of the party in promoting the government's agenda. Now, historically, you know, the National Democratic Congress, and again, this is history. This is not no pundit speaking, and I'm not, somebody said in the comment section, I'm taking my cues from a particular pundit who was in the NDC. No, I'm not. I'm not taking my cues from anybody. I have no skin in the political game. But historically, Mr. Redhead, and of course, the folks, operatives of the NDC have also articulated that view in the past, that whenever the NDC gets into government, one of the challenges that it historically has is its ability to promote government's agenda in a full-throated and robust way with respect to its public relations posture. Is that something as P.R.O. You have reflected on based on that past history of the party with respect to PR? And what has the party done and what is the party doing to ensure that its public relations stays on par, especially in this digital environment? I mean, we see it now where, of course, in the last election, one argued that, you know, it was a digital election because the NDC had much more digital engagement than the government at the time. So let us talk about how what you're doing to maintain that digital engagement in an era where folks are just distracted by so many things.
Well, it's part of the process. Social media, for example, is open sepulchre when it comes to the vast amount of information that you can get from all over the world. Yes. And therefore, it is always very difficult to compete with that catchment, so to speak. But we remain focused in doing what we are accustomed to doing, which is to inform the people, which is to update. I'm speaking now in the context of the new generation of the National Democratic Congress members, and building on the work largely led by now Ambassador Orlando Romaine. It is somewhat easier in terms of the systems that he left, the recommendations, the things that he believed was necessary to continue to work. And therefore, where we sit now is far easier. And I speak coming from a place of two instances where we had the chronic losses as a political organization under different generation of leaders to know. It's a vast difference in terms of our ability to do and to do more. I think where we sit now, maybe one of the biggest challenges that we face is how to effectively combat misinformation, propaganda, and dishonest rhetoric. And I say this in the context also to piggyback on one of the points that you made. Now, the National Democratic Congress genuinely believes in accountability. And this generation of leaders is doing a good job in certainly not continuing this political toxic environment by going down a road, for example, of suing anyone. So far, you may or may not be aware of all of the, I would say, nasty allegations that have been made against a number of our cabinet ministers, party officials, among other things. And nobody associated with the elected leadership of the NDC have engaged in any legal battle with anyone. We leave the people to say, I would say maybe in some instances too much, anything that they wish to express. And we believe it's democracy in the sense that we are not opposed to people criticizing the National Democratic Congress, especially when their belief might be for us to do better. We accept that. Where we believe that we draw the line in terms of what we entertain is, and specifically from a PR standpoint, is open and dishonest rhetoric that is geared to either cause confusion deliberately for the country and damage the country's international image and relations. We believe that is non-negotiable, and certainly the government and the party will support the government 100% in any venture to bring clarity and to speak honestly and openly to the people. And so we are not opposed, you know, the comments, I see them all the time. I do enjoy a good chuckle sometimes of some of the comments, I must say, with a lot of these fake pages. And it's more of entertainment for us than anything of substance. And where people, Grenadians, both home and abroad, give substantial criticisms, we do take them on board to help better that. I can speak to the Honorable Prime Minister hosting his programs, DMs with PMs, where he openly accepts calls of people to critique or to give suggestions or to give ideas on different things. So we are not intolerant to that. And I think this is something that we can boast of in this dispensation of politics, where we had generational change of leaders, where we believe that this is something that has to be changed. And over time, I believe Grenadians will become immune to propaganda.
Well, you're saying that, but don't you run the risks by ignoring a lot of the, I suppose, what you define as chatter, that you will get the opposition to define what you're doing, and they might get to define it in very warped ways. I mean, the opposition's propaganda is extremely ubiquitous. It's prolific. It's just unrelenting. You know.
Not necessarily at all. So let me say what I mean by that, because you see, for propaganda to effectively work, the people pushing propaganda certainly have to be credible themselves. I'm saying the opposition is in no way, shape, or form in any position to be talking about corruption and public this and that and trust and so on. I'm saying this openly simply because we know of instances, and certainly the public will continue to hear good things when we report. But it does not mean that the government is not in possession of very scrupulous activities that occurred under the previous administration. And again, so we are not, it's more of a question of where we see weakness in our efforts that we can improve. We listen to those constructive criticism, but the usual run-of-the-mill propaganda and mudsling and wild allegations, we do not entertain that, and we encourage our supporters and members to not entertain it, because it's just designed to create mischief and distraction.
But again, don't you see that not engaging it? And I see what you're saying, but do you have a sort of a communication infrastructure, for example, that would, let's say the opposition comes out on one of their many programs to make particular claims about XYZ, those claims go viral. What mechanism is there in place, for example, if you're adjudicating that perhaps those claims or whatever claims are being made is false, to rapidly respond to those claims, to say that those claims are in fact inaccurate, false, whatever the case might be?
Every political party would have a design mechanism, strategy, call it what you may, to be able to respond to or at least diffuse. I am in no position to give you any specifics, but what I can say is that we, as I have just said, respond to those elements that are non-negotiable, which is a threat to our country's image, where propaganda may be extremely misleading and is designed to create confusion at a moment where we need clarity, honesty, and clear articulation as to what is happening. And I can give you two examples or instances. You had the opposition deliberately during Hurricane Beryl putting out misinformation, which we had to intervene and ensure that when information is released, it will come consistently from a central body, which is at the NADMA headquarters. And that was done specifically to curb instances of misinformation. This is something that we observed during the COVID-19 pandemic, which was a weakness on behalf of the former administration, because they themselves loved too much of propaganda. So they eventually got sucked into the old propaganda and started going left and right and saying all manner of nonsensical stuff when it came to dealing with COVID-19. But that is only one instance. The second instance where we believe we needed to support the government and add clarity on any issue had to do with this question of the visa, immigrant and non-immigrant visa issue. We believe that it was necessary to comment on this and support any government initiative, particularly in this instance, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is the principal entity to deal with any instance of that, because it threatened Grenadians' concern and it added confusion to what was or what is being proposed. And I'm saying this to say that this is a customary practice by the opposition. We do not normally respond to all of their
no, I'm not saying you have to respond to all of it, but I think, and again, I'm just wearing the hat of a neutral communications expert now. Please, folks, you know, in Grenada, you have to navigate this green and yellow minefield, and not here, please. I'm just saying that, and again, for the benefit of the public as well, that, you know, perhaps having some type of machinery that treats with particular issues that would rise to, you know, particular national importance.
No, well, I've just given two examples.
An example of that, but I'm aware of that. Yes, I'm aware of that. But do you have a systemic mechanism in place? I mean, as P.R.O, who else can speak on behalf of the party, for example, outside of yourself and the PR and your deputy P.R.O? I don't know who the deputy P.R.O is. Who else I can, for example, the Bub report. Well, Orlando Romain does not come on this platform. He never did following the election.
But you see, no PR, right? So fair enough, PR.
But or surrogates, outside of your Facebook base, right? Outside of the folks who go into comment section. Elections are not won in comment sections, by the way. Let's just go there. But outside of those, do you have any other spokespeople that can go on platforms and speak on behalf of the party
as the
to treat with those issues?
I am responsible for what happens internally and what we say externally. As it relates to who speaks on what, that is a decision that is entirely separate from the public relations officer by himself. So in this position right now on your program, I am the P.R.O speaking on behalf of the National Democratic Congress, and I am in no position to divulge any information on any spokesperson on any specific matter. What I can say, which I have articulated some moments ago, is that, as I said, whenever there are concerns with the image of the country and national confusion, in terms of the opposition putting out its propaganda, we will respond to it. How we respond is a matter entirely up to the leadership of the National Democratic Congress.
Okay, very well. Now, we have a comment here, and I think this comment is absolutely spot on, by Margaret Francis. She's saying, I wish Mr. Redhead and his cohorts in the NDC leadership would do more to emphasize their party's belief in free speech to their supporters, because it's clearly obvious from their behavior that the rank and file did not get the memo.
We would continue to encourage our supporters as best as we can to support the National Democratic Congress. The supporters do have a right to support how they see fit to support, but certainly we will continue to encourage them to be responsible. And I have just said that we, at the leadership of the party, have never engaged in suing anyone for any mischievous information, dishonest information that they have put out on any one of us. And we do not intend to do so. Nor do we intend to silence the media, nor do we intend to hold back any information that is relevant to the public at the given time. And I am saying that as it stands now, coming into office, we believe that our supporters are focused on the positive side of what the National Democratic Congress is doing. When they respond to the opposition, that is entirely up to the support base. There is no way, shape, or form that I can pretend that as public relations officer, I can police the base. Likewise, with all other political parties, there is always a vast difference what the leadership may say in a political party versus what supporters at the ground level, and make it worse, social media can say. We have no control over who has a profile on Facebook. And therefore, it will be very difficult to start venturing into the realm of trying to say that we could police our membership. We will continue to ask our members, executive and senior members, to continue to be responsible as they have demonstrated in the last 3.5 years. But definitely, as it relates to supporters, we have no control over that.
And finally, Mr. Redhead, let us talk about happenings in your constituency. Of course, you know, you've articulated, of course, we've seen a lot of, I suppose, social media activity from you with respect to what you're doing. Are you confident, sir, that given the work that you've been doing in your constituency, that the people are going to repose confidence in you whenever that bell is rung?
Yes, I am very confident. In fact, I'm getting ready to wrap up a few things as related to my personal development, which the public would be happy to hear. And we will take that opportunity to lead out in a very great way, both myself and the team at St. George Northeast, what we have achieved thus far and where we intend to take the constituency moving forward. I believe that what we campaigned on in terms of our four-pillar standpoint, housing, good infrastructure, healthcare, the improvement of the facilities, among other things, educational opportunities, among other things, we have been able to fulfill, if not 90%, but certainly around 95% of what we campaigned on. There's always room for improvement because the amount or the quantum that you can actually deliver at a given time is always subjected to the ministries or a different department. And therefore, having relied on that system with all its red tape, that is probably one of the drawbacks. So the speed at which we can deliver and do things is always somewhat limited and subjected to rules and limitations, so to speak, to manage government's own ability to deliver on its national objectives, in addition to supporting its local objectives. One of the things that we have already begun speaking about at the level of the leadership of the party and led by the Honorable Prime Minister is the question of constituency assemblies or local government leaderships. We believe that this is going to help, and certainly once we secure the second term of the National Democratic Congress administration, we believe that we are going to pursue a robust local government system that is going to help roll out some of these expectations, so to speak, that people may have, rather than relying on an individual. And I'll give you an example. If a hurricane is to threaten right now, as Member of Parliament, I have to do a lot to make sure that I mobilize the necessary resources so that we can secure people. I did so at Beryl's incoming impact. I stayed in New York, and I was able to coordinate a vast majority of what had to be done. And I'm saying at present, what we need, therefore, is more hands on deck to be able to deliver more benefits to people. If I had my way, the only drawback I would say from my experience thus far, again, is that the speed at which we can assist people is always subjected to external factors. And by and large, the timing of when we expect something to be delivered sometimes is a little off as to what you may articulate to somebody. So I would say that is a genuine drawback in terms of your ability as a Member of Parliament to serve. In terms of unemployment in St. George Northeast, it has fallen. Unemployment has also fallen nationally as well. In terms of opportunities, it has increased, and particularly educational opportunities. We have been able to give very structured support to a number of small businesses operating within the Northeast, and the expectation is that as we continue to go forward, we will do more of that. We have seen private sector investment, and I can name probably two in this first instance, critical to expanding employment opportunities. You have KM2 Solutions, and you have the Rubis gas station now, the northern part of the constituency, northeastern part, closer to southeast, the Rubis gas station. So we expect it's only up from here in terms of what we can do. We, of course, also have a great housing revolution. I am not in a position to say to you that every single person who probably need a house in St. George Northeast has gotten one. But by and large, we have done a pretty good job in terms of the numbers of homes that we were able to repair and the new ones that we were able to build in such a short space of time. In addition to that, we have done a pretty good job in gaining a clear assessment as to how we are going to map out the constituency in terms of being able to reduce congestion, the infrastructure, road network in particular. We have finally resolved the issue up in Willis. This project is currently ongoing. The banks at Constantine has been shaved. They've all been shaved. And so I am told by the contractor that the upcoming week, we will commence work on the drains to be able to get this road paved within short order. After which, once they are completed up in Willis, the expectation is that we are going to be doing over the entire road from Decal gas station go up to Monkuma. And also having completed Monkuma, we are satisfied that from an infrastructure road network standpoint, this flank of the constituency that I'm describing is in a much better place now than when we took office in 2022. In addition to that, I think some of the community development that has taken place is genuinely going well. In fact, we have given so much support to a lot of community-based organizations that I can't even recall the number. It has been so large. And I want to thank and place on record my great appreciation to the Ministry of Community and Social Development, the outgoing PS Finley Jeffries, the scholar, and the incoming one, PS Rush and PS Sylvia Bennett. I am expecting that we will continue in good faith to continue to deliver benefits to our people from a community standpoint. So by and large, I am satisfied with what we have done. There is always room for improvement, as I have said, but we look forward to 2027 whenever the general election is.
Well, Mr. Redhead, how is being out of the cabinet? Because of course, being a member of the cabinet, yes, you articulate public policies, and but part of your role as being a member of the cabinet is being able to advocate for resources for constituencies. And in Parliament sometimes we hear some on your side, of course, when the NNP was in government, same thing, for example, the former MP for Carrick-Compiti Martinique of blessed memory, Elvin Nimrod, would say that, he would have to go to cabinet to fight. Tevin Andrew would say the same thing sometimes, fight for resources. Doesn't that put you at a disadvantage, sir, being out of the cabinet?
Not necessarily at all. I enjoy, and I would say this, I enjoy excellent relations with all of cabinet colleagues. And I want to place on record my appreciation to them. Some I could single out, but I wouldn't do that in fear of them saying, so you call this person's name and you call my name. So, but I would say, out of joke, of course. But I would say,
of course, yes.
I do enjoy good relations with them, and they have been nothing but kind to St. George Northeast. In some instances, they know that I do pester, especially when it involves people and us being able to help people from a medical standpoint, social standpoint. I am very much adamant about those things, and they have been able to support. But in addition to that, I also enjoy good relations with private sector individuals. I enjoy good relations with other people in society who I would call on from time and again to assist. I can give you an example. There was a constituent of mine in the Willis area who had to complete a particular medical procedure in Trinidad, and there was emergency for her to do that. Now, at the time, we did not have the resources from a constituency allowance standpoint. And, even though the constituency allowance only gives you the opportunity to give at least up to $1,002 to any individual. And so we were able to mobilize $5,000, 5,000 EC dollars for that person because of my own ability to talk to someone asking for it. And the important thing about it, I did also account to the businessman as to what the monies were used and utilized for. And so we enjoy that good relation. Part in the benefit of being a good politician is being able to network. And so even if you do not hold a position, your ability to influence and to talk to people and to act and negotiate for benefits for your constituency is something that should never be overlooked.
Mr. Redhead, finally, on matters of your constituency, we've gotten some reporting that there are some disaffected foot soldiers, in NDC foot soldiers, that is, NDC activist foot soldiers, who were with you on the campaign trail. Some of these foot soldiers have articulated the view that that they've been disaffected, that perhaps you've forgotten them, if you will. Again, I'm just saying the reporting that came to us. Is that something that you acknowledge is an issue that you might have to be addressing in for the next election? Because of course, as you know, elections is a game of addition, not subtraction. Because again, the PNM learned this in Trinidad and Tobago, where a lot of their disaffected foot soldiers did not come out to vote, and we saw the outcome of that election. Is that something, sir, and not only you, but other candidates who would be contesting in the various constituencies?
Right. Well, it's a normal process. Certainly, if anyone is feeling disaffected, they can reach out. And in the instance that they do not get me, I am very, very easy to get in touch with, at least outside of the cell phone. As it stands now, I cannot concretely pick out a vast majority of people. There might be one or two individuals, since I pursued the master's degree, that I had to give sole focus and attention to the masters, that I am not able to catch up with as I would have liked. But outside of that, there is no disenchantment. If anybody reaches out to me in emergencies, resource-wise, etc., I am there to give the support. Not on a major scale, but I do acknowledge, not on a major scale, but I do acknowledge that, there might be one or two people that since 2022 might just feel, well, I didn't push for them enough, or maybe they didn't get a scholarship or some kind of thing. There just might be people of that. Things that are not necessarily in my control, so to speak.
So how would the party treat with that? Because again, I suspect one would not want to go back to those foot soldiers after the election is called to say, well, come and vote for us, right?
No, the party has a mechanism, and like everything else, it's about people. We continue to engage. We continue to make the case for fairness across the board. But fairness does not only mean fairness for your supporters. As Member of Parliament too, you can also be upset with certain things, and therefore there must be a clear mechanism to, in a sense, articulate that frustration on both sides. And I can say to you that I have never had to personally fall out with anyone on any personal matter. I could say this openly. Anyone who say that I disrespected them or was aggressive towards them, that is their interpretation. But certainly we continue to engage each and every member as best as we can. This is an ongoing process. At least I do know and have given support to all of the people who worked on my campaign. One or two may be dissatisfied with what they get, but I have no immediate control over that specific issue. But I have assisted all of the workers, who contributed. And in one way, shape, or the other, not everybody will be satisfied with what they get, but we are working to ensure that we can assist as best as we can. Remember, when we get elected, the state's resources is not for me to say it's only belonging to the NDC. And therefore, I am always very careful in terms of maintaining that stance, that as Member of Parliament, I serve the entire constituency. And therefore, my obligation is first and foremost to the nation, and my obligation is second to the National Democratic Congress, whom I am grateful for giving me the opportunity to serve.
We have a question here. Your administration said they will be giving a report to the constituencies every quarter. Now we're in the 4th month. When will we be seeing a town hall or rally? I mean, I think if you're going to be doing a report, you would want to do it at a rally, but at a town hall at least. So I know that there was a town hall in Wester Hall. I don't know if that counts, but that was specific to Project Polaris. But to the viewer question, Mr. Redhead.
Right. I think maybe in the year 2025, we were somewhat certainly preoccupied with international instances, but we have been able to keep since 2022 faithfully the constant engagement with constituents. And I can recall even on a zonal level, we went around the entire island. So for up until July 1st of 2024, which is Hurricane Beryl, we completed one of the most important town halls, which ended in St. George Northeast at the Boca Secondary School. We continuously, as much as we can, would post, would share information on updates with the constituencies, with the constituents and in the various constituencies. And from PR, where I sit, I think we have done a good job to articulate, both from a personal standpoint in terms of what is happening with MPs, members of parliament, and caretakers, and also as it relates to construction projects. Now, if the specific question is on specific instances within the constituency, let's take, for example, you might have an Awasa project ongoing, as it were, in the south. and the situation was a bit difficult for some commuters, among other things. I don't think we specified by having town hall engagements, but we have been engaging the population as best as we could consistently, certainly as it were prior to 2022 compared to now. We have done a good job in communicating what is to be communicated.
Well, you, sir, I have to credit you for evolving in that respect, because there were some times when I was calling you and I was not getting in touch with you. I don't know if it's because you were dodging me or whatever the case might be.
No, we were busy from Beryl and my studies. So.
Well, there are particular other ministers, sir, that if you can lobby on my behalf to come on the program, they have not been coming on. One of which is the Minister of Fisheries there, the most esteemed Honorable Lennox Andrew, another GBSS colleague of yours, sir. He owes us a visit on the Bub Report, following, of course, the lifting of the fish ban and all of that, which I think is good news. And, it's something that wasn't a long time coming. This did not start with this administration. And certainly this administration, as I said, also dropped the ball on this, but it did not start with you all, right? You inherited neglect on the question of compliance in that area. So I think it's, again, context matters, right? But Minister Redhead, certainly, sir, thank you for appearing on the Bub Report this week. Are there any final comments, sir, that you wish to leave with us and leave with the viewers?
Yes, just too quickly. Certainly today is another day for Carifta, and we look forward to the continued success of the Grenadian team and all the other Caribbean teams participating in our Mecca sporting event. I want to wish each and every one of the countries all the best on behalf of the National Democratic Congress. And in addition, just to say that we begin a new venture, which is Project Polaris, for the improvement of healthcare in Grenada, or the continued improvement of healthcare in Grenada. And I am asking on behalf of the National Democratic Congress that each and every one of our Grenadians who are both at home and abroad to support this venture and see it succeed. Thank you.
Mr. Redhead, thank you, sir, for appearing on the Bub Report. Hopefully a next appearance would be before an election. Of course, that is in the domain of your political leader to ring the bell. Some have advised him to ring the bell in June. Would you give him that advice too, sir?
I have no comments on it.
No comment. No comment there. You would not comment on that. Okay. I'm glad I could make you laugh, sir. But in all seriousness, thank you, sir, for appearing on the Bub Report this week.
Welcome.
All right, viewers and listeners, of course, that was the Member of Parliament for St. George Northeast. We just had a wide-ranging and extensive conversation on issues animating developments in the context of the National Democratic Congress as a political organization. He was able to articulate the internal work that the party is doing. He was able to articulate how the party is defending and articulating government's position, as well as articulating the work that he's doing in the context of his constituency. Of course, Mr. Redhead did not shy away from the tough questions that we pose here, as we always do, with everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. Those questions need to be asked. And the way that I see it is that those questions must be asked in order to clear up and bring clarity to issues that the public might have concerns with. And it's important that journalists do that job of asking the tough questions. And that is something that I would always do here. Again, I have no skin in the political game. I have no interest in getting involved in politics. I have no interest in picking sides. I quite frankly think politics, and this is just my personal view, I think politics sometimes can have a cultish quality to it. So in other words, if your side is doing something wrong, you are not going to critique your side. And if I were to get involved in politics, I would have the moral clarity to critique whatever side I support. My ethos tend to be progressive. I have a progressive bent. But if my progressive side is doing things that are not in line with what they campaigned on, then I need to call them out with clarity as well, right? And that's how it should be. And that should be for any government, because at the end of the day, governments work on behalf, at least in democracies, they work on behalf of the taxpayers. They are being paid by the taxpayers. And as such, the taxpayers have a responsibility to call the government out because they're working for us, the people. The people are indeed the government. And that's my position on the issue. So if you want to think differently that, we should treat your public officials, it doesn't matter who they are, whether that's your opposition public officials, your government public officials, with kid gloves. No, I'm not about that life. I've never been about that. My journalism is not guided by that. And the sad reality is, not only in Grenada, but in the Caribbean and in the West, really, journalism has become about access, right? So because you have access to Minister X or Minister Y, you are then going to treat them with kid gloves and not be able to articulate the issues in a way that demands accountability. And that has been a challenge. This issue of, some call it eat a food journalism. I mean, we see that in the United States, right? A lot of the corporate media entities in the United States. And that's one of the things that upon completing my course of graduate work at Howard University, my PhD at Howard University, I had no intention of working with any corporate media entity in the United States because they're all bought and paid for. And there is this incestuous relationship between media corporations and government. So much so that because of that incestuous relationship, they are unable to critically report on the performance of government. They're able to critically report on the sort of political economy relationships that exist between corporations, big businesses, and those who fund their political parties, right? And so if journalism is unable to do that, then that's not journalism. That is public relations, right? Walter Cronkite said so. Walter Cronkite is one of those journalists that I look up to. Mehdi Hassan is another journalist that I look up to, that my ethos are guided by. And so that is what we will continue to do here on the Bub Report. And certainly, folks, we thank you for your participation by way of the comment section on today's program. And we will see you next week for yet another edition. Happy Carifta, happy Easter to those who celebrate and those who celebrate other pagan festivals at this time of the year. We want to obviously, and I believe Holi is coming up soon as well. So again, folks, thank you for your participation on this week's edition of the program. And we'll see you next week for another installment of the Bub Report. Take care. Bye-bye.
Don't go there.
You are a technocrat. I mean, you can speak to whether or not it was appropriate or inappropriate for that to occur. Would you have done that as a permanent secretary?
Politicians get the information from wherever source that they can.
That's going to be the extent of your answer.
Yeah.
Don't go there.
There's a lot of noise around the data protection bill that, in my respectful view, is not warranted.
I was one of those making noise, and it's simply because I was concerned about that specific section 33.
Don't go there.
Are you going to be offering yourself up as political leader of the party?
I see you've called me have much more than diplomatic passports. I don't buy that.
Don't go there.
What is the relationship like between you and your leader, Dr. Mitchell, your boss, Dr. Mitchell?
I'm not sure how to explain how to answer this question at this time. I prefer not to answer.
Don't go there.
They said that you approached the bank for the loan before the election and that it only materialized after the election. There are also conflicting reports around the quantity of monies that were received. What is the reality here?
People try to extort the truth and to make all kinds of things about it. I just stay quiet. So if you notice, I was really and truly quiet about the whole matter.
Well, except with not with the New Today newspaper. The New Today newspaper reported on this, so I'm not sure you were quiet on this. Go ahead, Honorable. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just trying to answer your question, right?
Don't go there.
I think we just spoke at length about the regularization framework. So
yes, we did. But let us talk, Prime Minister. Let us talk about the workers who are dismissed.
The Bub Report, we go there.
Hi everyone. The Bub Report is committed to being fearless, balanced, and independent, bringing you the stories that matter most without compromise. Now do us a favor. Remember to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit the bell so you never miss an update. You can also watch us on GBN TV every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Catch us on WPG10 television every Sunday at 8 p.m. Your support helps us to keep journalism free from bias and influence. And together, we can make sure every voice is heard and every fact is verified. Thanks for watching.